Good morning, everyone. Now, first topic, adaptive balancing. So how does that work? It actually works by loading a little file called load that gives you an integer value back. So the load balancer will ask your real server on a web page about that integer value, right? Every couple of seconds. By default, it's every 10 seconds. What you need to do is you run a script on your server that will check resources, hard drive space, workloads, and other things that you put into the script, and it will calculate this integer value, which could be from 0 to 102. Okay. Based on the value, the load balancer knows what to do with that server. How much load can the server take? Should I not give it any more load? Should I just let it run the current connection that it has? Or should I completely disable it and take it out of the rotation entirely and cut the connections to it to let it recuperate? So when you enable the adaptive scheduling first, the weight will be set to 100%. And once the load balancer can read that value of the file, it can amend this number and lowers or increases the workload. Right. So these are the numbers that could be returned or the load balancer can read. So no HTTP response means I have a weight of 0. So it's like a normal, it turns like into a normal round robin in that moment. 101 and higher than 102, it's also we don't think it's healthy anymore. So that's what I said. 0 is round robin. 1 to 100 is the weight that you can load it with. 102 means we are dropping all connections to that server. 101 means we don't take new ones on, but we continue with the ones that are still on it, right? So that's how can I explain that? So 101 is similar to I disable the real server on the load balancer, so it will still continue to run what's connected to it, but it will not take any more on. And 102 is like failing a health check, completely dropping everything that's connected to it. So that's initially how that works, and I will show you how it's set up. Even though, as I said before, my lab is today a bit annoyed with me, but it's not the load balancer's fault. I guess it's the IIS fault because it's not passing it on properly. And I collected a ton of links for you to learn about how to write, where to find those pieces. I hope that they're still running, because right now, since I wrote this deck, there's loads of migration going on to the new progress webpage. So the progress pages are definitely working. The Camp Technologies pages might be decommissioned at this stage. So they were still there last week, but I guess now with all the migration going on, it might be that those camp ones are discontinued. So don't be surprised if you click on them and they don't work anymore. Right now, we're migrating everything to the progress portfolio. Okay, and now let's have a look what I can show you based on that topic. Here we go. So this is my LoadMaster right now. I reduced him a lot to focus on what we want to show today. It's set to resource based, and it should technically load the file /load on port 1990. So that's the plan actually. So the way you set it up is you enable it, and once you enable that, the check parameters will extend and will set an option for you to set global values. But as you've seen on the latest firmware versions, I know I'm not on 61 yet, but I'm on 60.1. there you also have an option to amend. So you could have technically different adaptive-based settings, right? In the past, it was only global, but now in each virtual service, you can amend those values also. And what should happen now? My load balancer should go to that application server we have added here, to both of them, on port 1990, and should try to get that file /load, right? I tested it here a minute ago, so the file does return, but as you see, there's no value. The file does exist, and it does have a value, to be honest, but IIS is not displaying it, so I was fighting with that all day long. Just to show you, when I this is my app one. When I open the file, here we go, load. You see there's a value of 75. So technically it should have displayed it for me, but I guess I still miss some setting in my adaptive opening here to display it properly. So I had it in the handler earlier, but it didn't do the trick. So I will try to figure it out, and I will ask the progress team to add the information on what to do in IIS to make it work into the documentation for you. Because right now it's not. I have all the information on how to enable it on the load balancer and so on, but the IIS information is missing. So I'm trying to get that amended for you. Right. So yeah, just to have a look on how the script looks like. I mean, I have made a few modifications to it, but only minor. So I changed, for example, the root, because it was web. What is it? Web root, I think. Or so I have changed it to adaptive, and I also added status wait, because I entered here. This is something that's by default not in there. I checked actually if my web pages on this application server are running. And I have that calculated in the value as well, rather than just memory and CPU. But it's only a sample. And in the end, it will create the file. So it will write that file, and it also shows you the values that it came up with. So that's how that script works. And what you need to do is you need to make sure the script is running constantly every couple of seconds, so that the file is updated all the time. And once you do, the load balancer should be able to pull it in. So I need to see, maybe the ASCII is not right. I need to see a video. I did one years ago in the DACH region in German, and there I got it running, but I didn't remember now how it was done. But I will double check and make sure it will be documented, so you can follow that through. So once the load balancer receives that value, it should display that. When you click on statistics and real server, it will display the adaptive value right here. And based on the value, the weight will be adjusted. So if you end up with a 101, for example, then you will see right here on the main screen that the server will be disabled, right? Same view is with 102, but as I said before, then all the connections to that server are dropped as well. It will not be disabled down here, or you won't see it kind of offline there. It's just on the main view where you see it's disabled, okay? Because it's just a view, it's not physically disabled. In real servers here, you won't see the server being disabled or anything like that. It's just for that VIP where the adaptive balancing is done. Okay, so much about that. As I said, I will try to get you the documentation corrected, so you know what to set up in IIS, so you can play with that yourself. Cool. Now, I don't see any questions for that, so I think it's good to keep on going. And I guess you are more interested in the second topic for today anyway. access control. Now, the load balancer allows you multiple different ways to limit access to itself or to the whole entirely set up virtual services you have. So in general, when we talk access control, we're meaning, or the meaning is the packet filter. So you kind of have an allow list and a deny list that you can do for each virtual service, and that will then act accordingly. But there are more ways for that, okay? And that's what we're gonna look into now. So the packet routing filter means when I activate this, I can restrict all traffic to the load balancer. If it's not activated, the load balancer can act as a simple IP forwarder as well. So if you have the load balancer as a gateway, it can route to other networks and to connect you. If you enable the packet routing filter, that option is not working anymore. Now, the next part, once you have it enabled, you can enforce restriction for the routing. So for example, if I say I don't want to allow any more IPs out of the network 192.168.200.0, so I'm now blocking the entire network. Okay, so any client out of the network cannot access. All right. So that's how packet routing filter works. I will demo that to you in a few minutes. This is how the packet routing filter looks within a virtual service, and you can create, allow, and deny or block lists. That's a cool thing though. So you can block or prevent people from entering your virtual service in the first place. But it's on the main service, like the SSL settings. It's not something you have in a sub-VS. So you could not say, okay, I have a main virtual service and I'm blocking someone for one part of it, but not for the other. That doesn't work with ACL. It's either the entire access or nothing. So there you see already where this feature kind of falls short, right? I cannot say, yeah, you have access to X, Y, Z, but not to ABC. That doesn't work with this option. The second thing is, even though I do have a comment field and I can tell why someone is on a certain level, when this is triggered, I have no log. I don't know that it has triggered, right? So that's also something I personally dislike a little bit because I would like to see when something is triggered. On the other hand, I'm not limited in any amount, right? If I have 1,000 IPs in this list or 10,000, it doesn't matter. There's no limit in at all. Of course, the more IPs I add, the more time it takes to run through all of them with each request to see if someone is on the list or not. So it will, the longer it gets, it will have an impact on the performance, of course. But we are not limiting it. So if you have 10,000 IPs in there, fair enough. It will still run through. Of course, you see a little performance impact, but it will still continue to run. So that's a good thing. Now, another option that does work on sub-VSs as well is content rules. So with content rules, you could not only look for the source IP, but you could also look for the user agent, for host headers, for directories, for a method that you only allow, for example, get or post. You don't allow delete as an option and so on. You could look for cookies and as well for source IP, right? So this allows you a way broader option to control your access to your application. And it also allows you to do that for sub-VSs. But you're limited. Each load balancer can only have 1,000 content rules, 1,024 to be precise. So just to let you know, that's a limit. And the second thing is it's still not locked when it's triggered. So it has its pros, but it also has its shortcomings. Another option to limit would be ESP. So the ESP engine, that is coming with enterprise level. So that's why I had those other two before. So this is standard. This is coming with enterprise. You can use ESP not only for pre-authentication, but also for security purposes. And you can add security-wise only allowed host names and allowed directories. If you enter with something that's not allowed, you get a 403 straight away. Now, the cool thing on that is yes, you are limited to host and directory, fair enough, but it's logged. So you see when a security violation happened. So you get notified on that. And on top of that, you can use it for pre-authentication, and then you log all the requests that go through. So that's pretty cool as well. Access can also be limited by groups or steering groups. So for example, I allow people in with pre-authentication, but they need to be member of a certain group, otherwise they don't get access in the first place. So this is already pretty nice, and it can be done on the main VIP, but also within the sub VSs as well. And another option to limit your control or you limit your access to your application is the web application firewall. You get this obviously by purchasing Enterprise Plus support. But there you can create custom rules to block access. So if you know your application and you know who should get access, you could deny everyone else. But you can also use a simple IP-based access control as well, like we did with the ACLs beforehand. So here's a sample that was one of our customers who passed that sample on to me. Pretty nice, actually. So this is actually one rule, but it has 4 different pieces in it. So the first thing says, if you are part of this IP range, you're allowed. If you're part of this IP range, you're also allowed. If you're part of this IP range, you're also allowed. Anyone else is denied. So only access for these 3 IP ranges is allowed. Everything else is denied by default. Now, the cool thing with this is I can do it on the main VS, I can do it in a sub VS, and I definitely get a log for each time this is triggered. So pretty neat. Okay. Like with the first topic, I collected a few articles on how this is all done, how the access control works, how the SORry server works, how the routing works with alternative source addresses and so on, because that's always interesting. How content rules function, how the package routing is working. I didn't add anything about ESP, right? Okay. Right, I will add this before you get the presentation. So you get also an article about the ESP piece. Maybe I can add it right now. Here we go. Okay, let's do it on the fly now. We do have the second. There you go, down on the bottom. Now there's an ESP article as well. Cool. Great. And now we get to the live demo, which will probably take most of our time now. But I'm pretty sure we will be finishing on time today. So where's my lab again? Here we go. Okay. Right. So let's start with packet routing filter. So you have a global packet routing filter that you could utilize for any kind of access. So this is on a global level. That means it's for all VSs and also for if you include the GUI, it's also for accessing your load balancer web GUI in the first place. Instead of using it for all load balancer VIPs, you could also use it within a specific virtual service VIP right now. And you find this in advanced properties right at the bottom. Okay, so when we open this this VIP, you see the name internetprogressdemo.com. Let's do this right now. I get the answer of my backend server, or at least I should. There we go. So it's my load balancer talking to the server. I'm requesting my normal page, and you see this is my client. All cool. So when I now say I want to block this guy from doing this, I can easily do that in the access control and put in that guy into the list. So I can use ranges or IP address only and say, so this is the bad DC, okay? Now he's added in as a single entity, and as you can see, it's loading and loading and loading, and I probably end up with an empty response because I got blocked on the load balancer and it doesn't allow me through. There's nothing really loading, so nothing happening. You see, completely pending, so it's not allowing me there at all. Timed out. I don't get access anymore. It's because I added it in the access control list, nothing to be done anymore. So very easy, very quick. Let's have a look. Do I actually see that? I only see that the block list has changed because I added that IP, but I didn't see that it's triggered, right? So that's what I meant earlier. There's no log telling me that it was triggered in the first place. Okay, now let's play with this a little bit. Access control, so let's delete this guy again. Let's say we want to block the entire network. There we go. So now that means I can still not enter, right? I'm still not getting anything. But let's do an exception for just the DC. So I'm blocking the entire network, but I'm allowing this guy. So now theoretically, I should be able to get in again. And there we go. I was able to get in, but I blocked the entire network. If I would come with a different IP now, I would still be blocked, but this guy now has an exception. So Lara, if you have a question, oh sorry, Damian, right? Damian. For allowing only one IP, you can just picking all IP ranges. Wait, let me just double check that. It's a bit small, 1 second. You can picking all IP range at the allowing IP. I think that that was something I just said right now. So I just did the example. So we block the full range and accept and so when I only right. So when I can block and then only that is blocked. But if you use an allow list, it's instead everything else that's not on the allow list is blocked. Okay. So right now, when I don't use blocks here at all, right now, because I have this in the allow list, I block everything else by default. So I would not be able to go from a different network in this VIP either anymore because I've limited with an allow list. So let's demo this. If I enable this IP range, for example, to a different network as well, because I don't have a second client in that 10 network right now. So I'm now enabling this VIP to be able to run on the different IP as well. Here we go. Right. And I'm expecting from my application server right now that I won't get access because I have an allow list set, and the allow list says, nope, only the one guy is allowed in. So 100.111. Let me take the block list out and only put the one allow list in. So you see my VIP works. So let me just correct that. If I take the block list out and only have this guy in the allow list, I should not get access from other networks anymore. If it still comes, I need to investigate on that because it shouldn't. Right, I take that sample with me. That's something I need to look into. Where am I right now? Here we go. So technically, or in the past, it was like this. If you have someone on the allow list, everything else by default is not allowed. But I will look into that for you. Was there another question? Does a domain name with port number then 88? How would you write an ACL to say block everything everywhere from external sources but allow? I mean, John, normally you would do that on the firewall anyway outside, right? To block everything from external. There's a different option. I would only, as I said before, I would, but I will look into it why it was not reacting that way. I would only say private IP addresses in here. So you would do it that way, that you allow all the private. And then you have, what is it? 16.0.0/12. This is the private NAT. So this is from 16 to 30, 31, and so on. And then you would have your private range here. So by default now, everything else that's not private should be denied. John, that's the way I would write it, to be honest. Now, Latif, you say, does the domain name with port number other than 80 and 443? I mean, you mean now that that my VIP can take the domain name with a different, so it offers that web page or that access with a different port other than 443 and 80? Is that your question? Let's do this. Let me take this external IP out again. So we'll revert that. Now we duplicate this, and I'm duplicating this, for example, to 8070, right? So now I have a VIP listening on 8070, and I can access my page on 8070. So the load balancer is answering. The load balancer is still connecting to the server on 8080, but the client connected on the VIP on 8070. Did that answer your question, Latif? Cool, great. Okay, so access control list, that was the first thing to look into. Now let's look into the second piece. We want content rules. So for example, we could create a content rule to say match match host. Oh, here we go. That's nice. Intranet, that's cool. So we want to match the host header or intranet. Progressdemo.com. Now, right now, this is the host name I'm using, and let's go back to the normal Port 81. But I can also use the IP address instead. Okay, so 10.0.0.1.1.1. I can also use the IP address. Okay, so both options are fine right now. I can come with a host name or without. It doesn't matter. Now, I have created a match rule for content switching. And when I enable content switching right now, I can assign a rule to my backend server. So it's the same like with sub VSs. You can assign rules to sub VSs, but you can also assign them to a server. So by assigning this to the server, I can tell the server this kind of traffic you're allowed to answer. Everything else you're not allowed to answer, right? By default. So with that, I've now limited my two servers to only allow traffic that's matching this content rule. So that means with this request, I still get through, all cool. I still get an answer as much as I like. You see down here the IP and the server name was changing because of a round robin, right? But if I come without the host name, I'm now getting a reset because the server is not allowed to take the traffic without the host header that was explained. Okay, so that was just one option. So that's one thing. I could also use a different content rule here that's matching on the source IP, right? So for access control, that can be done there too. And I could also say I'm only matching on private addresses. If I come with a public address, I get access denied. So you can do that as well. I recently had a sample for that, and I asked the guys to put that into our guide. It will take a little while, I guess, until it's done, but I can show you the sample that I asked for that asked to be added. 1 second. Recently done by me. Here we go. So I put in a sample that matches on all private IP addresses. So the sample looks like this. Here we go. So it looks complicated though, but it will match everything. Everything that's in any. Oh, I need to add the multi-line here. Sorry, my bad. There we go. So it will add. It will match to any private address in the range. So as you see, all of them are matched. But if you come with something else, like 212, 25, whatever, so all of this is of course not matched. So only the private ranges are matched. So you could actually see that pretty nice here. So this is the piece that's actually doing the whole magic. So it says you are in the 10 network, so 10 dot and it could be now from 0 to 255. And here it's the 72 network from 16 to 31. And here it's 192.168. And the last two triplets are actually in this piece. So I've kind of limited the thing. If you just add them behind each other, you're running into the limit of content rules. There's a limit of 255 characters, I think. So this is already a condensed version so that it actually works out on the load balancer. But this is a content rule that only matches on private addresses, because I recently had a customer saying access to this is allowed from external, but to this kind of specific part of the web page, it's only allowed to from internal. So we needed to use a rule like that to figure that out. And there you go. If you like, I can put it into the chat if that is interesting to you. Let me see. Here we go. It's a chat to all, so there we go. It's that piece. Okay, so you can also use IP as an option. So let's yeah. Do you want to see more samples for content switching, or are you happy with that? Okay, I don't see any questions coming up or any chats, so I guess you're happy. When you do this, that the server is only allowed to take on certain traffic, of course, you could use the non-available redirect handling and could, for example, say, right, 3 or 4 forbidden, or if you want, because we have 3 or 4 later on with ESP and WAF, so let's take a different option, for example. Oh yeah, payment required is also great. And you could simply say access to the resources only after paying Bitcoin. Here we go. Oh wait, American keyboard. That looks awful. Here we go. So as I said, my servers are not allowed to take the host name on. And then because they're not allowed, the non-available redirect handling kicks in and you get this instead. Whereby if you come in with the proper stuff that the server can access, you can you still get your page normally. Right, so that was content rules. Now let's have a look into the ESP options. So I'm taking the rules out again, and we look into the ESP options. Disable the rules, come on. Good. Now, ESP. You could use ESP for pre-authentication, but you don't have to. So you could also use it for logging purposes, right? So for example, let's start without security. I'm just doing delegate to server. I'm putting a wildcard in, and also for the directory, a wildcard. So right now, I get access via without the host name. I also get access with the host name. So all easy. But I've now enabled connection logs and user logs. And let me see. Yeah, I should not export them. I always turn this on, sugar. So when I access this or access this way, I get user logs that tell me that was my VIP, that was the client, and he requested this, right? Or here he requested this. So far, so good, but I get a log. I also get a connection log. There was a client connecting using the VIP, connecting to this server, right? So at least some information, pretty handy. Now, when we increase the security, we could now say, yeah, but my allowed host is actually intranet progressdemo.com. And now I still get access throughout the proper request, but I don't get access if I don't have the proper host name. I got blocked. And this now writes a security log. There was someone coming with this host name for this VIP. This was him. And I denied it because it was not in the allow list. So now I have access control, but I have a nice log to it. So, which is pretty cool. And I could do this on the main VIP, but I can also do this within a sub VS if I'm working with sub VSs. Right. Unfortunately, I cannot use ESP for stuff like methods that I only allow get or stuff like that. I don't have the option there. So this, it's a nice thing. It's great with the logs and so on, but it's limited to security for the host name that's allowed and the directory that's allowed. Okay. But at least I get more visibility. What you could do technically is combining your content switching rule with the ESP, right? So let's modify this VIP a little bit. I take the servers out, and we're going to build a sub VS, and we build a second sub VS. We use now content rules. Okay, so let's, for example, say I'm using my host rule to enter the first sub VS, and I'm using the default rule to enter the second sub VS. So that's everything that is not matched by my first production VS goes into the second one. And here I now add my real servers into the production piece. Go. That should work now. And into the sub VS, into the second one, we can put a text here if we want. You can also put a redirect to your main homepage in here if you like. So we can actually do that. To found and say this goes to camp.ax. But I'm enabling ESP here. Okay. And put in something completely ridiculous in this page, so it's always triggered. A hosting that's definitely impossible to get. Now, I have my virtual service now changed. We have the production and we have ESP on the on my sub VS. So when you come in with a proper host name, all is fine. But if you come in with not the host name, you get access denied because he's in that. He's now matching within the sub VS. He's now matching there, and that means I still get his information that he triggered me with the wrong access. So even though I don't have I have content rules now used, I can combine this, right? So the the match rule was not matching. So I can combine those things to get the log. That's also a possibility. Or I mean, it doesn't tell you now, for example, if I have the methods wrong. So if you use a different content rule instead of the host name, you use directory or source IP, or you use method, whatever you want. This will now simply trigger that there was your main content rule was not used. Something else came in, and now at least you have a log that something happened. There are two questions now. Daniar, not sure if you did mention content rules on source IP header. Regex set flag for source IP. Why would you now use the flag? Not too sure what you try to achieve with that, but that rule technically would only trigger one single IP address. Not sure why you do the flag, but it would trigger one specific IP address. Now, IKEO, what do you recommend if we want an IP like 10.10.10.10 to only access a couple of whitelisted URLs? Other IPs can access everything as normal. Oh, that's a nice one. Okay, let me think. How can I build this? So you want to say that a certain IP can only use certain URLs, but everyone else can do everything. So what I did with that was with a customer recently, I built like sub VSs like this with match rules to say, okay, if you use /suite P, you go to the first one, and if you use /production level, whatever, you go to the second one. So why would I do two? Very simple. One that everyone is allowed to access, and the second one where only that's the one that's limited, or yeah, who's not allowed in. So what you would normally do is you create a content rule. Let's do this. Allow access else than, what was it, 10.10, right? American keyboard. I never learned this. Nope, not available right now. Here we go. So source IP, and your sample was like this, right? Okay. What you could do is you could simply say, I'm allowing every access, or everyone, or the server is allowed to take any traffic for that. And you say, I'm matching everything else than this. And then you get your solution for that. So now only the traffic that is not this IP is allowed to take on. Everything else would not continue. So you could do a flag, and you can combine it with a directory, and that way you can allow or disallow with that. I hope that works. Now, Danya specifically is working for this, but so access control is not working for the sub-VS. That's correct, but with the rules you can use it instead. That's correct. Thanks for the great webinar. Oh, cool. Now, we still have 6 minutes, and I want to continue with that. We still have the topic about the the WAF, right? So let's do that. So you can also use the WAF as access control. Now, do I have it in here? LM traffic, and I don't know what that rule is doing. So let's have a look if I've written it down somewhere. But we can create a new one, so that's all easy. WAF. Oh, access control. Here we go. So there you go. I've created a rule to say I want to match on 10.00.24. So this is allowed, but everyone else is not allowed. Okay. So now I will use this rule. I can upload it in the load balancer. So you can go to WAF. Come on. Custom rules. And now I'm choosing my new access control file. Now the rule is installed, and I can go to my VIP right now, and you can use that rule. So let's extend this like we did before. I'm now allowing this also to be accessible from somewhere else. So that means my app server here right now can still access it. So he's happy, right? To get to that VIP. You see it's now green because I'm using the different virtual service, so he can access. Now let's apply the WAF rule. There we go, apply. So now the WAF rule is in place, and I get access denied because the rule, I come from an IP address that's not allowed. The WAF has triggered, and within the WAF logs, I mean, you find this in the you find this also here in the trigger logs, but you can also go into the main logs and you find it there as well. That WAF event was triggered, and here you go. My rule, not this one here, access control rule. There you go, has triggered. I come from an IP address that's not allowed, and now it has triggered. So you can use the WAF for that as well. I hope that helped you. If you have questions on that, please send me a message. I'm happy to help. And that concludes our presentation. Now, I didn't got the chance to ask the question. Actually, do you have any topics you like me to show you? Anything you come up, any issues that you run into that you like explanation on? Please send them here in the chat, or send them in to Michaela by email when she asks you about the questionnaire and so on. We try to put a question in that for that too, in the questionnaire. But if you have any topics you're interested in, please bounce them on. Now the script, I just see a question here about the script. To be honest, I had it open this morning. Oh yeah. Here is the link. You find a script example for Windows and for for Linux as well. It's in the chat right now, so that should help you. Okay. Cool. Now, if there are not any more questions, I'll let you go. It was great to have you here. And yeah, pass on topics that you like to hear, things that you're interested in or struggle with. I'm happy to work them off and to display them to you. Cool, great. Thank you so much. Have a good day, guys.